Hello, I'm Steve Cox. I'm a retired wood procurement forester and a volunteer with the North Carolina Tree Farm Program. We're going to talk about tree farm, what it is, and how it affects you as a logger or a wood procurement professional. Let me ask you a question. Who owns most of the forest in the United States? Is it the U.S. government, the forest industry, or family forest owners? Of course, the answer is family forest owners. They actually own about 36% of the forest land in the United States. Well, what is tree farm? The American Tree Farm System is a network of more than 88,000 woodland owners that sustainably manage over 26 million acres of forest land. It is the largest and oldest sustainable family woodland system in America, internationally recognized, meeting strict third-party certification standards. It began back in the 1940s. It consists of private landowners who are committed to practicing sustainable forestry. There are 4 key elements in tree farm, and these elements are on the green and white tree farm signs that many of you are familiar with. First, a tree farmer must manage their land for wood. They do harvest timber. They must protect water quality. They must protect and promote wildlife and wildlife habitat. And they must provide recreation. Tree farms are more than pine plantations or Christmas trees. Some folks think that when you say tree farm, you're just growing pine trees or Christmas trees in nice little straight rows. That's not the case. Tree farms have various ages and species of trees. They contain lots of different habitats and biodiversity. Let's talk a little bit about what we do in tree farm. Tree farm gives people the tools that they need to be effective stewards of America's natural heritage by keeping their forest healthy and productive. These woodlands are vital to our country's clean water, air, wildlife habitat, and recreational activities, and producing the jobs, wood, and paper products that we all need. Our goal is to get more good forestry on more acres and keep it there. Well, why are tree farms important? First of all, 2.8 million people nationwide are employed by forestry and related industries. 1,000 acres of private forest supports 8 good-paying jobs. 25% of clean water originates in private forest. 60% of all at-risk species rely on private forest for habitat. 92% of wood and fiber come from private forests. Let's talk a little bit about tree farm in North Carolina. We have about 1,000 tree farms in North Carolina, and that comprises over 320,000 acres of land. We have about 180 certified inspectors. These inspectors are foresters that have gone through an inspection training process, and they can go out and inspect tree farmers' land. We have an 11-member executive committee. All of these folks are volunteers except our executive secretary, who is a part-time employee. We have many supporters, and we'd like to thank them. We also are supported by many forest products companies, individual forests, and private landowners. Well, what are some of the benefits to landowners for being in tree farm? First of all, they can get information on practical, sustainable forestry. They have contact with an inspector who is a forester, and he can provide them a lot of information to help them on a daily basis. They're also involved in what we call a tree farm community. We offer workshops and tours and help from other foresters and other tree farmers. We also provide advocacy and representation. We have folks on our committee and in the state that regularly meet with legislatures both at the state and federal level to make sure that policies and laws do not adversely affect tree farmers. And of course, these landowners get to display the tree farm sign. And that sign really tells their neighbors that they're practicing sustainable forestry, that they're doing it right. And of course, as a logger, you're going to be expected to do it right too if you're harvesting their timber. Tree farmers are generally open to timber harvesting. They realize that it's part of the process of managing their land, and they use the income often to reforest and to improve their woodlands. Tree farmers are also recognized for their performance. In 2007, Dr. Bob Cooper and his wife Jean were voted as Tree Farmers of the Year in North Carolina. They also became the Southern Regional Tree Farmers of the Year in 2008. And also in 2008, they were selected as the National Tree Farmers of the Year. Tree farmers are also given the opportunity to have affordable and accessible third-party certification. Now, what's the big deal about certification? Most of you are familiar with certification in some form. Some examples could be the UL label that's on electrical products, USDA organic label, Southern Pine Inspection Bureau on lumber, or the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, SFI, on various products. What is forest certification? Well, it's a guarantee that land management practices meet a specific standard of sustainability. It's issued by an independent third party that attests to the sustainable management of a working forest. And it gives consumers assurance that products they purchase originate from sustainably managed forests that protect economic, social, and environmental benefits. Which third party endorses Tree Farm? Tree Farm is endorsed by PEFC. It's the world's largest forest certification system. Well, where do you fit in as a logger or wood procurement professional? Well, let's talk about chain of custody first. Of course, chain of custody begins with the forest and goes through the final product. We begin with an American Tree Farm System certified forest, which is harvested by a certified logger such as ProLogger and goes through a certified wood procurement system. Then the product is manufactured at a certified paper mill or sawmill or other wood products facility. And then the certified product receives the label and is sold through a merchant who needs sustainable products to satisfy public demands. Well, how will this benefit the certified landowner, the tree farmer in particular? Will it give him more money? Well, that depends on supply and demand. Most customers right now are not willing to pay more for a certified product. But as companies become certified, the demand for certified timber will improve. What about market access? As you know, full log yards mean quotas. Loggers might get better quotas if cutting on certified tree farm timber. Maybe. This depends on the mill and the location. We do know of cases in other states where loggers have been given additional quota simply because they were on tree farm timber. What can a logger do? Well, first, the logger needs to ask the landowner if they are certified as a tree farm. This could be important. You should tell your forester or timber buyer that you're logging a certified tree farm. That mill may be tracking the amount of wood that's coming off certified land, and that could be very important. Let's go over the requirements of being a tree farm. The landowner must have at least 10 acres or more of managed woodland. He must be a private landowner. They must meet specific requirements called standards, and they have to go through an inspection process. What are the standards? Well, there are 8 that must be met. First, they have to have a commitment to practice sustainable forestry, and under that, they must have a written management plan. That management plan has to cover items such as forest health, soil and water, wood and fiber production, threatened and endangered species, special sites, invasive species, something called integrated pest management, and high conservation value forests. Other items in the plan must address prescribed fire, wetlands, desired species, recreation, aesthetic quality measures, biomass, and even carbon. The second item is that they must comply with laws. The landowner must comply with relevant laws, and that includes loggers that are cutting their timber. And they must correct any conditions that might lead to adverse regulatory actions. Number 3 is reforestation and afforestation. Of course, reforestation is replanting trees. Afforestation could be converting a field to a forest. The landowner must ensure that they have adequate stocking levels and use certain species. The landowner must consider air, water, and soil protection. They must follow best management practices, BMPs. And of course, most of you are very familiar with BMPs, and this is something that you can have a direct impact on with that landowner. Loggers must be trained in and follow BMPs, and of course you all have to go through the training to be ProLogger. Also under air, water, and soil protection comes something we call integrated pest management, which uses a variety of methods to control certain pests of forests. This could be silvicultural, mechanical, biological, or chemical. Just simply thinning a stand of pines will help improve their health and vigor, and of course they would be able to better fight off insect attack. Number 5 is fish, wildlife, and biodiversity. A landowner must ensure that if they have any threatened and endangered species, that they are protected. The landowner or their forester has to do some research to see if they do have endangered species. They must manage and protect that habitat. They must also promote their desired species. That could be anything from wild turkey, deer, to bluebirds. And they should prevent, eradicate, or control invasive species, things such as multiflora rose or kudzu. As a logger, you can have an effect on this. When you move equipment, you need to check to be sure that you're not transporting seed or plant parts to another tract where you might spread an invasive species. Landowner also must check to see if he has any rare species and has any high conservation forest. High conservation forests are fairly rare, but they do exist on certain tracts of land. Forest aesthetics. Of course, that's how a forest looks. The landowner should apply certain visual quality measures. There could be a clear cut behind this row of trees. Landowner must protect special sites. He must maintain them, research and locate and identify those sites. It could be something like graves, old home sites, campsites, special hunting area. Could be something like Grandpa's first car. These are also historical areas, archaeological sites, cultural, geological, biological, and ecological sites. Loggers should remember to check for special sites. Skidders and special sites don't get along. Number 8 is forest product harvest and other activities, and of course, as a logger, you're directly involved in that. Landowners must use qualified professionals and contractors such as ProLoggers. Forest owners should engage contractors that carry appropriate insurance and comply with appropriate federal, state, and local safety and fair labor rules, regulations, and standards. Landowners also should use written contracts for timber harvesting, and most of you, of course, do use written contracts when you purchase timber. The loggers that tree farmers use should be trained in safety. The forest products harvest and other activities should be monitored. That could include checking loads, making sure that they meet the contract requirements, follow the management plan, and they should be sustainable. To quote Bob Cooper, "Like most landowners, I grow my pines and hardwoods for various reasons. But at some point in the future, my trees will be harvested for a profit to justify the initial investment and land use of my property. We plant trees because we're confident they will provide future income and years of enjoyment for our families." If you need to contact us, Leslie McCormick is our Secretary Treasurer, and feel free to contact me at any time. One day, they'll be in charge of this. Tree Farm. We're about the future. we work on the ground, we give people the tools they need, and we grow stewardship from the roots. Thank you.